Hey there, greetings and welcome to the first RV Blue Zone video. I've done some other videos on YouTube, but this is a new series for me, one that I want to continue, something I'm very passionate about. And I'd like to talk today about purchasing a used motorhome. Um, I've been very interested in motorhomes for about 15 years. Um, I looked for a good 10 years. Um, had to be in the right place financially and all of that sort of stuff, and um, it took a while, but I think I learned a lot along the way, and that is what I would like to talk about here to begin with today. um, I think one of the things that I notice about YouTube that very few people talk about when purchasing a motorhome, either a new one or a used one, is the importance of vehicle first. Um, it's a motorhome. Many people today are embracing a full time live in their motorhome or their travel trailer type of lifestyle. It's one I would really like to, enjoy myself. We have a business right now, and it takes up quite a bit of our time. We'll continue to do that for a little bit longer, and you know, but I would really like to spend my time in the motorhome, and I bought this motorhome for that purpose. And being a mechanic, I think the most important thing is remembering, that this is a vehicle, that it will move, that you're going to drive it, and you're going to put it on public highways, and sometimes you're going to be in places, going from Las Vegas to Reno, Nevada, where there is nothing, for 400 miles. Having faith and confidence in your vehicle, is an extremely important part about living a stress reduced lifestyle in a motorhome. If you're worried about it breaking down, or if it breaks down, or you constantly have to fix things and do things to it, you're always going to have to do things to it. But if there are things that preclude you from doing the things that you want to do, then that just causes you stress, and it's not going to be a very enjoyable experience. I think you really have to be looking for what you want to spend, and then really understand the difference between, like, motorhomes and coaches. I think there's a very, very clear line, that doesn't really get explained. The one that I'm in right now, my coach, is a 1992 Beaver Contessa. It was built in Bend, Oregon, by the Beaver Motor Coach Company before they were involved with Monaco and all of that. This was a family run, very craftsman oriented organization. They would start off with a Gillig bus frame. And a Gillig bus frame is pretty much what you see in all the city buses everywhere you go, from Boston, Atlanta, San Francisco, even the Grand Canyon. The buses that they use up there, those are Gillig buses. The trolleys that you see that are bus based, in a lot of resort type areas, those are also Gillig based. They're million-mile buses. This thing is, all air, Caterpillar diesel, Allison transmission, but it's built for 1,000,000 miles. It was not made for a motorhome. A motorhome was put on top of it. There were a number of companies back in the early to mid 1990s that did this, and they're widely available today. And I think they represent probably the best value. If you have $50,000 and under to spend, this is really where you want to be. If you have $100,000 and under, you can include something like possibly, a mid 1990s Newell or Prevost. But what we're going to talk about today, I think, are Beavers and country coaches, Four Travels, and Vogues. These are, there are a few others in there, Scepters, from that time period, late 80s, 1990, 91, that sort of thing. They were also very well built. But primarily what you really need to understand is that Bluebird, is another perfect example of that. These are commercial vehicles, that were built out for us to use as motorhomes. Um, you know, it makes a huge, huge difference. I see in YouTube videos, some of these newer ones, these gas ones that going down the road, they've got the engine right next to them and stuff like that. I can basically whisper. The loudest thing that goes on here at 60, 65 miles an hour is just the air on the windshield. You don't really hear much in the way of an engine. There isn't a whole lot of banging of suspension. It's a very, very, very civilized, type of ride. It was built in 1991, as a 1992 model year. So it's designed around a 55 mile per hour, speed limit. So, it does 55 to 65, downhill 68, 70, but mainly 65 being your upper end. But it will do it up a pretty severe grade at a pretty high altitude. I haven't ever really, experienced, what I mean, like, 20 miles an hour or something like that trying to climb up a hill. If I hit a hill doing 65, even a mile and a half long, 5% grade, I'm still doing 65 at the top. It provides, what I mean, a 300 horsepower Caterpillar provides a pretty considerable amount of grunt. Also, well, when they're well maintained, change the oil 4,000 or 5,000 miles. Keep it up. The older mechanical engines, they do eat a little bit of oil. This one goes through a quart maybe every 1,000 miles or so. I keep it right up there. I keep a close eye on it. I maintain it. I understand, that these things are not just, hop in it and go. But what you get at the end of the day, can be an exceptional value. I bought this 1992 Beaver Contessa in 2012 off of eBay. I think they thought it had a pretty considerable problem that turned out to be a stripped lug nut in the back, which is pretty common with this style of wheels, something I was kind of aware of. They said it had a wicked vibration in it, came down, 15 minutes, sawed that lug nut off, put all new tires on the back just to be safe, and I have not really looked back since. These are million-mile coaches. Underneath this thing, the suspension components and all of that sort of stuff, I put some bushings in it and stuff like that, not because they've worn out, because they've dried out. Massive brakes, excellent redundant air system. Again, transmission. I think 5 speeds and 6 speeds are great so long as they're in the 4000 series. But this is an older style 647. This is a dump truck. This is a garbage truck and a fire truck suspension. You can drop nuts and bolts in it, you know what I mean, and it'll go up, for 40,000 more miles. They're extremely robust. And again, that is so, so, so very important. It has a nice non-electronic, you don't have to put diesel emission fluid in it. It doesn't go through electronic, cleanup cycles. I put biodiesel in it and it runs extremely clean. I highly recommend the stuff. When well made, it is just absolutely exceptional for these older engines. But the bottom line is, you start off with something solid, you're gonna be able to continue to keep it solid. Lighting fixtures in here are absolutely exceptional. They're cast aluminum. Back in the day, my God, they were probably a couple of $100 a piece back in 1992. When I wanted to upgrade them to LEDs, I went into them, I cut very neatly and cleanly, I cut the fluorescent stuff out. I got nice LED light bars. I put those LED light bars in there. They fit absolutely perfectly. I now have exceptional LED quality light, throughout the coach. But I didn't really have to do anything beyond that, because it wasn't plastic light buckets that had dried out over the years and all of that sort of stuff. So everything that I started off with in here is of exceptional quality. All of the plumbing fixtures underneath are absolutely exceptional. Big, heavy duty, battery cables. Again, I took them off, I loosened them up, I shined them up, I put some dielectric grease on them, I put them all back together again. A big, beautiful, Onan diesel generator, fires right up, runs everything in the coach and can run half of my house at the same time. Again, everything is built to a whole nother level. I think that's very, very important when you get into these things, that you experience getting into it. If you need to worry about the affordability of it, like I said, I have only less than $10,000 into this. I'm going to paint it. I'm going to do a few extra things to it. I'm going to replace some of the components that I think should be replaced. Um, but again, if I put $10,000 into it, I'm still only into it for 20, and I have an exceptional vehicle. That Beaver, I mean, trying to get into something that has the level of quality of workmanship and cabinetry and woodwork and just everything, all the electronics in it are of the highest quality. Today, you'd have to spend $1 million or more to replicate what you get in this for quality and ride. There are no laminates in here. There are no, particle board. When I redid the tile floor in the back, there was 7/8 of an inch of underlayment under the floor. All beautiful aluminum stringers that the frame is, that the actual house of the motorhome is built on. 2-inch foam board insulation in between all of that. Spray-in foam insulation in other areas. 1.5 inches of insulation in the walls. I mean, this thing was built to last. So now I have it. I paid $9,000 for it, $9,200 to be exact, and I can go through it and only be worried about the more minor things. I don't have to tear walls out of it. I don't have to do massive stuff with frame components coming unwelded. There's a company out west that they basically make a living rewelding the suspension components in Monaco's. You don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. Everything here, is really built to last, and that's what you want to start off with. We'll get into some more in some more videos, some of the upgrades that I've done here, more things to look for, but for right now, let's start off. Like I said, there are a lot of country coaches on RV Trader, on eBay, for travels, 92, those grand villas with that big bull nose, exceptionally well built vehicle. Vogue, Mitchell, those type of things. There are a lot fewer of those, but just absolutely beautiful. They command a little bit more money, but worth every penny. Again, these vintage Beavers, there's quite a few of them out there. This is a vehicle that you can get into for a reasonable amount of money and really, really enjoy. You're going to do some tires maybe. You're going to do some, change all the fluids out. Look at all of the hoses. I did all of that sort of stuff. But I mean, for pennies, in retrospect, when you drive down the road in this thing, it instills a tremendous amount of confidence, okay? When you're going along like I did in the past couple of weeks across Arizona, northern Arizona, and then across through Albuquerque, the wind was 40, 50 mile an hour gusts. I was not worried. I was not getting blown around out on the highway. I certainly felt it. I was certainly aware of it, but it did not really affect the performance of the vehicle. I did not feel like I had to pull off, okay, and wait, that kind of weather conditions out. We hit snow, we hit beautiful weather, everything in between. You have a very solid vehicle, you're going to have a very high level of confidence in getting through it. Start off vehicle first, and then make the home your own. It's just like a home. You're going to start with a foundation, and you're going to frame up from there. Again, this is something very, very similar. If you're going to get into a fixer-upper, you want to get into a fixer-upper that you're starting off with something that is truly worth fixing. Remember that. For Travel, Vogue, Prevost, Newell, they're all out there. Beaver, my absolute favorite because I own one. Get a chance, subscribe. I'm going to put together a few more of these videos. We're going to talk more about this stuff. We're going to get into some of the more mechanical aspects of it, which I'm pretty good at. We're going to constantly be working on, getting this ready for us, to hopefully at one point, spend a whole lot more time in it than we do now. And we'd love to take you along for the ride. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Look forward to seeing you again. And thank you again. Please subscribe.